Happy Thursday, everyone. It's great to see you all. Thanks so much for joining us for the last two sessions of our Sharing, Caring, and Holiday Entertaining series, kicking off here tonight, the two for December. I'm so excited you could all join us tonight. And we've got some really special guests. We've got some of our wonderful heroes joining us. We're going to learn how to create our centerpieces for our holiday table. We're going to enjoy watching Chef Todd create another beautiful culinary delight. And best of all, we're going to have another delicious glass of wine together. So please do pour yourself a beverage of some sort, hopefully a bottle of the Rutherford Merlot or the Dollarhide Malbec have made it to your table, or, you know, another fantastic St. Supéry wine, or maybe it's a little early and a cup of tea is what's going on. But you all know the drill. Please do ask questions in the chat. And feel free to raise your hand and we can call on you and unmute you. But we're going to just dive right in. So thank you all for joining us. It truly is a beautiful day here in Napa Valley. It's, oh my goodness, like 67 degrees. Look at that view. It is just spectacular. You can see those cover crops already starting to grow out there at the ranch. And we checked in with Michael Garcia a little bit earlier today to see what's going on out there in the vineyard. And that is a lot of it. We've talked about erosion control and cover crops, but he took a little quick video for us just to tell us what's going on in the Malbec, as we're drinking a little Malbec tonight. And we've been watching this beautiful spot here at Parcel 10 where the Dollarhide Malbec comes from. We've seen that go through a couple of seasons together. But let's see what Michael has to say for us.
Hey everybody, we're here in Parcel 10 where we've been observing the vine growth all year. As you can see, the vines are dormant, and after the rain last month, the cover crop is growing vigorously. We've had some warm days recently, and the cover crop with seeded is coming up very nicely here and in all our parcels. So after taking a look at 10A here, we'll go look at the cover crop growth in some of our other parcels.
Yeah, it's certainly looking good. You know, it's nice to know we've already had more rain this year, so we're seeing good growth, which is great for stabilizing the soil as well and not having any runoff, which is a good program. But looking really beautiful out there at the ranch. I hope you've got a chance to come and visit us over the next few months, because this is one of my favorite seasons in Napa Valley, is when everything turns a little bit green and wonderful. And I'm very excited that we have our two fantastic winemakers with us today. Michael Scholes, our VP of Viticulture and Winemaking, and Brooke Shank, our winemaker. You know them both well, but I thought it would be nice to hear from the two of them on this 2017 vintage and how fantastic it is. And what you're enjoying tasting Malbec and Merlot. I feel like both of these wines are great entertaining wines. They're they not only have great structure and density and are going to please your very picky wine lovers, but they also are just very pleasing on the palate, that they're easy to drink, that even your less sophisticated wine drinkers are going to be extremely happy. You want to tell us a little bit about the wines, Brooke?
Yeah, sure. First of all, we'll talk about the vintage of 2017. It wasn't the easiest vintage for us in the fact of we had a pretty warm season. So I know Michael and I, it was a kind of challenging for winemakers. I think we have two fantastic wines here. We've done a good job. Luckily, we are an estate winery, so we can make decisions like pick really fast if we need to. But maybe you could talk about, Michael, some of just the whole overall growing season of 17 and how we approached it.
Yeah. The 17 vintage was actually really quite a nice vintage. Actually created some really nice wines. Every vintage brings a few challenges, but you know, and then some times of the season that are not. Like for example, 2017 we had quite an extreme winter. You know, which makes our erosion control practices more pertinent. But from a seasonal point of view, that's good because it fills our lakes. prepares the whole vineyard for the season ahead. We had a nice, pleasant spring through that time, so we allowed the bud break to kick off and progress quite evenly and quite nicely. And there was good groundwater, of course, from that wet winter, and therefore the vines were set up for a good summer. When it became a little more challenging because the summer was quite a warm summer, and so that, which is fine. It just meant it progressed things quite quickly. And then once we got to a point of seeing maturity start to occur, certainly in the whites, for example, it kicked the harvest into gear quite swiftly. But that's fine. The wines turned out to be quite excellent. The reds got a chance to hang on the vine a little longer because the season settled a little later towards the fall and allowed us to keep the reds on the vine with good extension. So it turned out to be quite a nice, created some wines that are very nice at the end of the day, and wines that are sort of got a nice textural feel, but quite approachable all at the same time. So yeah, a good result to 2017, Emma.
Well, I think the wines are quite delicious, and a good result. I sort of think, kind of a great result, Michael. I think you and Brooke did a fantastic job with these wines, and they're really just starting to show their own. I'm having the Merlot in my glass to start with, and it just has just wonderful, deep black fruit aromas for me. And the density and texture of this wine is kind of unbelievable. Do you want to talk a little bit about the winemaking technique there? Or?
Sure. So, the wine is quite has good expression in the Merlot, good presentation in the aromatics with grapefruit aromatics and what have you. The wine's has got some interesting winemaking approaches to it, where almost a third of the blend has been barrel fermented. That's quite unique because that's what has helped create this wine that's got a quite round palate that has good sort of persistence and good length, yet is quite sort of approachable, quite elegant all at the same time, which is a good thing. So yeah, we've got that going on. We've got some good sort of black cherry, black plum aromas. We are, and we've got, like we see in our Merlot quite often, those mocha qualities, and this contributed somewhat from the oak profile as well. And as I just talked about, the barrel fermentation that helps contribute to that. But a wine that's got a nice density and a great length and great persistence. Really, really good textural feel. Really nice Merlot, actually.
Yeah, I really love this wine for food pairing. I feel like it's kind of one of my go-to wines at home because it's so flexible with food. But the Malbec is something that, I don't remember to have every day. And I've just forgotten how wonderful and juicy and delicious this wine is. Brooke, do you want to give us your thoughts on the Malbec?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I get on it. Really juiciness. I almost get like a cranberry on the nose, but a lot of blackberry jam. And I think this is interesting, this Malbec, because we find at Dollarhide we get this juicy kind of boysenberry characteristic and really soft tannins. And if you look at the blend on this, it's has a lot of Petit Verdot in it. And in 2017, we had even softer tannins. So we needed a little Petit Verdot to give it some structure, which I think you can feel that tannin there. And I think it's a really good texture that we have in this wine. And just an interesting, a little bit of a different blend than we've seen before, but it's fantastic. And I think it's really neat to actually use this for entertaining because Malbec isn't something that you see everywhere. So I think it can be kind of fun to bring to somebody's house or serve because maybe not everybody knows about Malbec.
Yeah, I was trying to find some other Napa Valley Malbecs that were grown just as a single Malbec, and I really couldn't find any the other day. So I was hoping to do a little competitive tasting with you all, but there aren't a lot of single vineyard Malbecs out there. But I do know, some of our friends in the Valley use the Malbec like we do on our elevation with Cabernet to bring some of that juiciness to it. But there's really not a lot of single bottling. So it is sort of a fun treat to bring out when you have guests. It's a great point with that really delicious wine. So Michael, you're our barbecue grill man. What are you grilling with these two wines?
The Malbec's got nine fairly strong aromatics, and it can handle a strong sort of dish. So obviously, when I say that, I'm often talking about meats, and sometimes meats that are a little more gamey. I can eat. I'll even pair lamb with a Malbec and what have you. With the Merlot, I find it to be a little more versatile. So I'll pair that also with some of the more gentle, delicate meats, or even salmon sometimes.
Oh yeah, I do. I like the Merlot with seafood. It's one of my red wine and seafood go-to pairings. Especially as Chef Todd's been teaching me all these bridging secrets. You'll have to tune in for that next year when we go into the Great Sustainable Seafood Tour again. Well, thank you both for making these delicious wines. Any updates we should know about from the cellar, Brooke, before we jump over to our heroes?
Well, we had an exciting day today because we bottled 2021 Napa Valley Estate Sauvignon Blanc. Ooh. So that's always very, very exciting because, we just came off harvest. We put the blend together. It looks really exciting and vibrant, and it's great to get it into the bottle. We also bottled some of our Muscat Canelli from Dollarhide. So that's happened as well this week. So we've had an exciting week for whites.
Well, I know you always like to get that Muscat Canelli in the bottle quickly. It makes you nervous with that little bit of residual sugar. So I know both of the wines are pretty darn limited quantities this year, but I can't wait to try them now they're bottled versus just on the bench.
Yeah, it's exciting. They taste great.
Well, I'm sure they're fantastic. So I'm looking forward to seeing those when they are released in the new year. One of the things we've been doing at the winery is celebrating our everyday heroes. For those of you who may not have joined the last couple of weeks or been to the winery, we've had a number of 26 volunteers nominated to be everyday heroes at the winery, and have a fantastic exhibit curated by Calvin Chin and Topher Delaney of Delaney and Chin. And so I encourage you to get out and visit it, or check it out online on our Everyday Hero page, landing page from saintsupéry.com, Everyday Hero. But we're very fortunate to have three of our heroes here with us today to talk about how they're caring for their community as we've shared our wine, and now let's see how everyone's caring for each other. And I'm excited to have Rosanna Mariana with us today. And Rosanna has been a COPE volunteer since 2017, and they nominated her because of her tremendous support of the community. Rosanna prepares materials and tools for the COPE Family Center home visit team, while also fulfilling other administrative duties as a volunteer. At times of crisis, like the recent wildfire relief efforts, she was there and ready to lend a hand and provide support. She does not work alone. She's often accompanied by her son, Sergio, one of COPE's biggest and youngest ambassadors. Sergio and Rosanna play a key role in the social events. Most recently, they organized craft kits that were distributed to families who then joined a virtual gathering to make heart animals. Sergio and Rosanna led the session, providing a unique experience of connection and parent-child building. Each year, they reach out to local businesses to secure donations of arts and crafts, supplies, toys, and books to be gifted to children at the annual family holiday social. And at the event, they provide cookie decorating classes and fun craft projects. COPE is a national organization, so I'm sure there's one near you that you can also help support, but they're doing excellent work. And Rosanna, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to have you today.
Thank you for having me. It's a really big honor, and I really appreciate everything you're doing to highlight all of the things that, not just me, but that we're all doing in our community to help each other. So.
Well, we really appreciate your service. Tell us a little bit more about COPE and your volunteer work with them.
Sure. So, I can't say enough good things about COPE. The staff is amazing. I mostly work with one of the areas, which is the home visiting program. So you have social workers that go out to the families and work with them in their home to help them develop healthy relationships with their child, showing them what they can do with everyday things to engage their brains and making sure, the parents' mental health is on point, that they're dealing with all the different stress factors, and that they're not, conveying that to their child, and that their child is developing and meeting their milestones. So it goes, it speaks to me because, I have a son, and I want to make sure that, I raise him to be, giving back, and that he has all the tools. And I love that photo. That's him at one of the events that we did for kids outside. So every month, COPE has a family social for their families to get together and engage with each other, to support each other. And my son's big role as the ambassador is to get all the kids that are kind of shy on the sidelines to, pitch in. So we love to volunteer with them and help the social workers get all the tools they need. My son and I have built, lift the flat books and different tools that they can give parents to help engage their children. There's also, parenting classes that they offer. They're a resource center first and foremost. So anyone can come off the street and say, you know what, I'm in a bind. I need some baby formula for my child, or I need some diapers, or I really need, a $10, $15 gift card just to buy groceries for the next couple of days. So they can fill out applications and get the help they need right away. So that's, always awesome that we continue to give back.
So what do you think is the most vital service that COPE provides for the community?
I think, just speaking to that, it's just the filling in the gaps. So a lot of families will get support from WIC or get support from CalWorks, but there's a limited amount of funds over, 2 years, let's say, that they're allowed to have. And sometimes the child has special needs or special dietary formulas, and, or they fall on hard times, and like we all have with this pandemic, and they fill in those gaps. So, they're always willing to sort of work with the person, get their stories, take care of their mental health above all else. And then what do I need? Not only solving your immediate problem at hand with whatever you might need as far as materials or diapers or formula or gift cards, but the person as a whole and their connection with their child.
Well, I understand that Sergio has a wish list of goods for the COPE Center that we have a QR code for that we can post online if other people want to get involved and help the kids out with some small donations there. That's always a great way to have other folks get involved. Other things that people can do with COPE family centers near them, or here in the Napa Valley?
I would just say, either, with COPE locally or with your own resource center, that's local, is reach out. I mean, organizing donation drives among your family and your network or your coworkers is, a huge impact, because each person that donates, a $15 gift card, those all can be given to families that can help. So I think, just organizing, like I said, my son with his donation drive every year for his birthday, he reaches out to all the family and friends and gets the donations, and we give them every year, and it's his pride and joy, and he looks forward to it and blows up his social media with, videos and pleas of his cuteness. That's him there with his really good friend who came out to help pre-pandemic with the holiday party that we had in person. This year, it's all virtual, but so yeah, I think that's the biggest way to help is just, reaching out and getting either the physical materials they need, like diapers or wipes or formula or gift cards, because then that allows the resource center to figure out what the best need is and to get that to the families.
That's a good point. I know one of the things that we've done many years as a group with my friends is adopt a group of families and connecting with resource centers near you. They can set you up with a family that you can be a secret Santa to and provide gifts. They'll give you a list of the family members and some of their needs. And it's always fun to be the secret Santa through one of these wonderful organizations. Well, Rosanna, thank you so much for your work and your contributions. We really appreciate all that you and Sergio are doing for the families here in Napa Valley and being an inspiration to others. And, family centers is a little bit of the theme here as we're in the season of getting together with family. I have Michael Caldarola with us from the UpValley Family Centers in Napa County. And Michael, you are such an active volunteer with UpValley Family Centers as a board member for the past 6 years, but you serve our community in so many ways. And you have helped with so many different challenges, from the wildfires and the pandemic, when the Calistoga and St. Helena Family Centers merged to the UpValley Family Center. Your organization has become stronger and stronger in helping those most neediest in our community. You're also a volunteer tutor, assisting students at the local elementary school with English or math on a weekly basis for several years. And you're just so excited and great about giving back to the community in so many different ways. And one of the things that I love, because it's so near and dear to my heart, is that you do the volunteer income tax assistance program. That warms my little CPA heart. I mean, I know you all didn't think that CPA heart could be warmed, but helping hundreds of low-income households file their taxes and bringing back to them over $7 million. So that's wonderful, that work you do. So thank you so much for that. But could you just share with us, Michael, at how you got involved and how you became a volunteer with the UpValley Family Centers?
Well, certainly. It probably goes back to my mother, because she was an avid volunteer. I grew up with her being involved in a number of different organizations as a volunteer. And I feel that, although she passed a long time ago, I feel that she's always looking down and saying, well, you can do more, you can do more. You have a duty. If you have a life that you're enjoying, that only means that you have a greater duty to help those achieve a similar life experience. So that's the deep background. But when I was still an active working lawyer, I got involved 15 or 16 or 17 years ago in the VITA tax preparation program, because it was something very easy for me to do and very, very helpful to the community. And then I also, for about the same period of time, was just independently working in the primary school, reading to the first and second graders, because I kind of have there's no stage that I won't jump on. And so reading to kids was a way to kind of exercise my theatrical instincts. Then the Family Center created the tutoring program, and it was easy for me to just slide right into it. And then with the VITA, I just continued to do it. And having been a part of those programs, it was just a quick step before they said, well, why don't you just join the board and volunteer on the board? And that's what I've been doing for the last 6 years. I'm kind of at the end of that term. We try to keep the board members circulating in and out in order to keep fresh ideas and fresh energy on the board.
Yeah, that is always good, those term limits, because it gives us an opportunity to go volunteer for someone else, right? When you turn out for one organization, there's always somebody in the sidelines waiting for you to jump on their board, especially when you're such a great volunteer. So tell us a little bit more about the organization, the UpValley Family Centers, because everyone may not be familiar with family centers. We have, quite a few of them in Northern California.
Yes. We're the COPE, the presentation on COPE, is a family service agency, a family service center. We are in the same vein, only we're UpValley, so we service mostly the UpValley community. But the UpValley Family Centers has 5 program areas. It's a little bit broader based. We have a family and senior wellness program. We have economic success and adult education programs. These are general program areas. Within those program areas, we have numerous actual services from financial coaching, say in the economic success program area. We have the VITA, the tax preparation. We have financial coaching, payment services, holiday assistance, things. We also have a community engagement program area, which encompasses some immigration service, citizenship practice and preparation, voting rights outreach. We were very involved in the census. We have a very strong partnership for youth organization, which is namely focused on drug, helping kids deal with the drug situation, drugs in the community. And then we have a very robust educational program that deals with kids from pre-K through high school. A number of programs, early learning programs, developmental screening programs, tutoring programs, as you mentioned, youth mentoring, especially in the high school, which is very important. And then in the last few years, from 2017, when we had the Middletown fire, we became kind of, by necessity, an agency that helps case manage disaster financial and disaster assistance. And then over the years, we've been developing that expertise to the point of where now we're one of the go-to agencies, if not the go-to agency, UpValley, when disaster strikes. And this past year with COVID and with the double fires that we experienced, we were really stretched but performed admirably in providing over several $1 million worth of financial assistance, getting it out the door to people whose basic existence was severely threatened and harmed by these disasters.
It is wonderful. I know that the Community Foundation has also helped deploy a number of organizations for disaster and provided some funding to help get organized and be one of those lead organizations, which is great. And one of the organizations that we support with our Napa State Sauvignon Blanc donation that we do. But there's so many needs, and you guys are covering a really broad range of services. And, one of the ones I did want to call out was the financial services, the budgeting and training for budgeting, because the AICPA has tremendous resources to provide tools to do that in your own community. If you're inspired to do so, they'll provide the training, the tools for the attendees, the tools for the teachers. And it's just a great way to help everyone navigate their own lives, because it's so rare to actually get that budgeting training, that sort of home economics training and planning that we used to in high school. It's sort of missing a missing program. I'm sure it's incredibly valuable to the community.
Oh yes, you'd be surprised at the number of people that we have here who've never had a checkbook, who've never and their kids are kind of outstripping them in terms of integrating into the way things are done here, but the parents are not. And so the financial literacy program is a very vital in keeping in integrating them into the way things work here, and in establishing trust with the larger institutions that people have to negotiate to maintain themselves here in the Valley.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your work. And are there ways that we can support the Family Center, and what does $50, $100, et cetera, do for the organization?
Well, I think that if people can go to the website, I think I would really recommend that people go to the website. I think that people should also search out the family resource agencies in their own communities if they really want to get involved personally, which is the most rewarding thing. Donating is a great thing, but personal involvement is priceless. So, but I do think that many agencies and family service agencies, one of the big things is stability, their financial stability. And so probably the best way to help those agencies establish some sort of stability of income is to sign up as a multi-year donor. And it's just like going to your KQED or any public radio station or television channel that you can sign up to give $15 a week, $15 a month or $20 a month, and you just commit to 3 to 5 or more years. That really helps for planning the programs, to plan and have a base a stable base of income from which to maintain their programming.
Oh, that's just great. Really good points there. Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate all that you do for our community. And thank you so much for helping raise that next generation, raise the bar there with their education. We appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Emma, and thank you, Supéry, for giving a platform for us to advocate for the UpValley Family Centers.
Well, thank you. And we're really excited to have another of our heroes with us, Joanna Letz, who's with Bluma Flower Farm, which she has founded in Berkeley, California. And for Joanna, farming is a way of life, a reconnection of the life cycles, and giving back is a key part of her mission. And you may think, farms in Berkeley? Well, how about rooftop farms in Berkeley? Kind of fantastic idea of utilizing this rooftop space. She has been creating beautiful bouquets one at a time, giving a percentage of those funds away, as well as supporting local farms, community farms, with starters and seeds to get those programs going. And we're really excited to have Joanna with us today. And not only are we going to hear from her, but we're also going to learn how to make that holiday centerpiece that, if you're me, I'm really not skilled at. So we're excited to have you here with us today. A percentage of her beautiful bouquets are being donated to local community organizations in need as well. And it's just a delight to have you here, Joanna. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for including me. So I can talk a little bit about who we have donated to and about our farm. And you'll see I have this centerpiece in front of me. So we mostly grow flowers and culinary herbs, and I've also grown vegetables in the past. Last year we grew, I have some fields out in Sunol, which is 30 miles southeast of Berkeley, and I grew popcorn and winter squash out there, and we were able to donate some of that produce to Homies Empowerment Project in Oakland and Poor Magazine in Oakland, and both of them work on a number of things, one of them being food access. So Poor Magazine runs a free farm stand, and Homies Empowerment has started doing, they do like delivery runs of produce and food. And we also were able to donate some of our plant starts to Homies Empowerment and to some other local public schools as well. So definitely, those two organizations are doing really good work. So I encourage people to check them out and donate if you can. So yeah.
All right. Well, that's really exciting. And also you yourself do tours and wreath making classes and some of those things in Berkeley. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I mean, one of the really amazing things about being in the city is that it's much easier for people to come visit us. So we've started hosting more events. So we're doing classes. We have a wreath workshop coming up December 11th. And we'll have a farm tour as part of that. And we also will do more classes in the spring, and hopefully we'll get to have more. I'm excited to include more high school students and other classes to the farm as well. So yeah, we're doing a lot here. We have a 1/4 acre on the rooftop. So we produce a lot of flowers and herbs and sell locally. So definitely support us if you can. And if you enjoy flowers, then you have another place to get them.
All right. Well, show us what we should be doing for our holiday table.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just move. I can't see. There we go. Thank you. So I'm gonna move my down a little bit. So we started designing some of this already. So I'm gonna just show you what we did. You can use any bowl really, or if you have some vase that you like. I like these round ones or one with a little foot. And then we use chicken wire. So we just take a ball of chicken wire, put it in there, and then This is actually a type of floral tape, which is readily available. You could use some other type of tape. Even Scotch tape might work, and then wrap around the edge as well. That just kind of secures the chicken wire in place, but it's not necessary. And then all of these greens are from our rooftop. Actually, eucalyptus is from Sinol, but it's once you have the chicken wire in there, it's actually pretty easy to just kind of start throwing in greens. So whatever you have at home, you know, growing in your front yard, or even, you know, sometimes we use things that are kind of considered weeds. And then I just kind of like, I'm creating the structure for my arrangement. And I like to have lots of different heights. So making sure to add things at different angles. I'm going to throw a little, this is lemon basil, which because we're on a rooftop and we don't get a lot of frost in Berkeley, it's still kind of going. But this is one of my favorite herbs to use in arrangements. And the other things we have in here, this is scented geranium, which is really pretty easy to grow. And then right now we're harvesting sunflowers. We got some feverfew in there. So now that I have all this structure in here, I can start adding my focal flowers and other bits. And they kind of just stay in place. So today I harvested some anemones.
Oh, beautiful.
Those in there. And again, I'm just kind of like try to do things so I have different heights. One person described it to me that I really liked, is kind of wanting to have a bird be able to kind of fly through the arrangement. And that's just what I like doing, but it's sort of like there's so many different ways to make arrangements. I also was harvesting a few volunteer cosmos. So one thing is like when they're kind of wonky, actually this one broke, but I don't mind for a centerpiece arrangement because it kind of adds some movement. If you're going to be putting the arrangement on a table, like where people are going to be eating, you might not want to make it quite too high. I like doing what's called color blocking, where I'll add stuff that's all sort of similar colors in one place, and maybe do sort of gradients that way. Let's see, I also have some zinnias that I'm going to add in. Maybe I'll keep some a little higher just to get a little height on there. But I like, I mean, kind of, again, whatever you have available, I think you can make something really beautiful. I even honestly like arrangements that don't have any focal flowers in there. So maybe you're just using whatever greens you have. We also sometimes will use dried flowers in fresh arrangements just to add some texture. Or if we're like, you know, maybe we don't have a whole lot of flowers at certain times a year. So what else I wanted? I really love digitalis. So it just adds just like something so special to the arrangements. So with the chicken wire in there, you kind of have to like find a spot where it kind of sits in. And I like making sure that I don't have any like stem on here that might get stuck in there. Because if you do want to move it around, it can be hard to do if it has like a, this piece might get a little stuck. I don't like to have anything that's like kind of straight up and down. So I like to have things kind of going in at an angle. Sometimes you just have to sort of futz with things a little bit before you find really where you want it to go. So we also have some scabiosa here. So it just adds a little
texture.
like, yeah, exactly. Wispy sort of bits. And again, like, I don't think you need, you know, kind of just using whatever you have available, or, I think probably at the farmer's market, there's still some flowers available. But
We
yeah.
have a lot of citrus, which I'm sure our friends in Florida still have a lot of citrus going. And I do enjoy using that this time of year to put a little, some of those great green waxy leaves in as well. And a few lemons on the table.
Right. Yeah. I love using edible stuff, whether it's fruit or even, like go to the farmer's market and experiment with using some chard or kale, because they will hold up. The one thing you want to try to do is not have any greens in your water, because then it can get a little funky. But yeah.
That's looking lovely.
I'll probably go in and add some more focal flowers just to make it a little more fun.
Well, the scented geranium certainly adds a beautiful texture as well to it as the wonderful scent that the scented geraniums do.
Right. But yeah, I mean, we're lucky that on the rooftop we grow 50 to 60 different flower crops, and then lots of other little things. So I just went up there and harvested, a few little bits that I saw, like these cosmos. But yeah.
Lovely. It's really pretty and different from every angle, which is a lot of fun.
Right. These are little marigolds, which kind of maybe don't go with the color scheme, but I like them. So,
well, they are gorgeous, and thank you so much for sharing the tips. I love the chicken wire angle. Any other shortcuts or things we should be thinking about as we get that centerpiece ready?
Yeah, I mean, I think make sure if you are harvesting, that you don't leave stuff out of the water too long. But yeah, I mean, just get creative. I mean, there's so many, I like to make all herbal arrangements, and I'll put thyme in there and rosemary, and we harvest a lot of our perennial plants. So like manzanitas and coffee berry. So yeah, just have fun with it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Joanna. I'm sure all of us are going to have an even prettier table for when we're sharing and caring for our friends and family. And let's see what Chef Todd has cooking in the kitchen today. I think it's going to be quite delightful with an exciting venison dish today. Tell us what's going on, Todd.
Of course, my pleasure. Welcome back, everyone. Staying with our holiday theme that we have going on here, I'm thinking about maybe some of the more unusual or different alternatives or options. You may have your favorites, and that's great. You want to stay with those. I totally get it. It's something about the comfort and looking forward to those things as well. But if you're looking for something else a little bit different, in the past couple weeks here, we talked about using some leg of lamb as an alternative, or different roasts and things like that. So I'm kind of staying along those same lines here, still showing off the wines, showcasing the Merlot that we're talking about today, and even the Malbec. What I'm using today is some venison. And you may or may not, depending if you grew up with it or if you've ever tried it. If you're adventurous, you want to try a different cut of a wonderful red meat, I urge you to give some venison a try. In this case, I have some venison that came from New Zealand, and it is a farm raised, where out on this farm, they are pasture grazed, so they eat grass. It's a fairly mild flavor to this venison itself. To find this venison may be a little challenging for you. You might be able to find some in a freezer section of a grocery store, a specialty store. You might be able to get some from a butcher shop. But you might also have some really good success by looking online. So that's one of the wonderful things about having the web to search and browse through, is to be able to get on some websites and find it. There is a domestic source that's pretty popular among a lot of chefs that we're familiar with, we've used in the past. And it seems like for special occasions, or maybe for something interesting to use, we'll reach out to those companies and try to bring in some venison, some elk, anything like that. That's really interesting. Wild boar, any of those wonderful proteins that work well with these dishes and the preparations that we're going to use here. If you get on and you look for example, out of Texas, Broken Arrow Ranch, they do a fantastic job of raising some interesting different venison, antelope. They also have some elk there, a lot of different types of unusual game proteins. You can find them there. You can order directly from them as well. In most cases, you'll find them to be trimmed down, already roast ready, or chops or steaks already ready to go. And that makes it a lot easier for you, so you don't have to worry about fabricating down or trimming down too much or anything like that. What I did with our particular recipe is took an old classic style of marinating these and using some of the wine in the marinade. So a lot of times these might be really intensely gamey when they're wild and they're out there. These farm-raised ones are a lot more mild. They have a real deep color to them. They've got some fantastic nutritional value to them. They are deeper in iron, so the color of the meat is really a deep red. But yet they still have this wonderful kind of a flavor that can take a marinade very well. And so I use some of our red wine. If you're following along with the recipe, you want to give it a try, you can use this red wine marinade and basically put in some spices in there. I'll show you what I have ahead of time that I went ahead and set up, if you want to give it a try. So you'll notice, okay.
Any other source of protein that we could use if we are unsuccessful in finding the venison, or?
Oh, sure. If you wanted to try some other type of proteins, an easy one to go in here would be some pork. If you want to do a pork loin or pork tenderloin, you can take on that same kind of marinade with all those wonderful flavors in there. So much more readily available if you're having an issue finding some online or anything like that. Just to show you some of the ingredients here that are on the marinade. Number one, you're going to find some nice spices in here. And these are kind of typical things that you might find for a venison dish. You've got some fresh bay leaf I always have from the garden. Juniper berries, that's one of the interesting things. So you almost have to think in terms of like a mulled wine, mulled red wine kind of an idea. Even though we're not cooking it, we're adding some of those wonderful warming spices that you find around autumn and the holidays. So there are some juniper berries. Black peppercorns in here. And then I also put in a couple of cloves. Not too many cloves in there, but a little bit of it adds a nice kind of a spice to it. A lot of times they say that some of these deer, when they're out in the wild, they're basically eating a lot of berries and things like that. So they pick up a lot of those same kind of flavor components to them. To that, I am going to add some dried cranberries. I love the dried cranberries. They're not too excessively sweet, so they're not going to throw the wine off when you go to enjoy the fruit that's in the glass that you have there. So these are dried cranberries that you can find in a lot of stores nowadays. They're not excessively sweet. They're just really concentrated in flavor. And so I'm going to steep those into my finished sauce that I make by using the pan drippings out of this pan roasted dish. There's always some shallots in here. I put some in with the marinade. So I slice some up. And then you can see this is on like my own little herb centerpiece here from some thyme from the garden. There's some blossoming rosemary and especially some sage. So those heartier types of herbs go really well with this kind of a preparation there. So by taking some of that red wine, putting the herbs into there, some of the herb sprigs, as well as all these spices, and then taking your venison loin, here's an example of a smaller piece that I cut off, and I think you can see this crosscut section of that beautiful color that's in there, as well as a well-marinated one where you can see the deep purple coming from the wine. So I use some of our red wine in this case. And what I also want to make sure that you have is some good beef broth or some demi-glace or some veal stock. You're going to need that stock to build the sauce from the pan afterwards. But this was marinated for anywhere up to 10 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, to even overnight, depending on the size of the roast that you get. If you happen to get like a larger shoulder roast or a leg or something like that, you may want to let it go overnight. Otherwise, if you want to get a good at least like 6 to 8 hours on it, you're going to develop this color. It will permeate through. It is truly like a marinade. There's no salt or sugar in there, so you don't have to worry about it kind of curing it, almost like a ham might do in a brine case. But afterwards, it's super important to make sure that you remove it from that marinade, pat it really dry, and then from there you can season it up and go into your hot pan. So that's what I'm going to do at this point here. I'll show you the process of kind of browning it off. One important thing to kind of remember here, I'm going to use a pan. I'll put it over about medium high to medium. And I've been preheating this pan while our guests were speaking, so we can kind of speed up that process. But what I want to do is season this, because it did only have basically the wine and the herbs permeating in there. So I'm going to do a nice even seasoning of salt. And then we'll also do some black pepper.
Have you reserved that marinade to the side?
I did, yeah. So that's an important part. You don't want to drain it out, because I'm going to use part of that along with the shallots that are in there. If you like garlic, you can put garlic in your marinade as well. So I'm putting a good amount of black pepper on here, getting all the sides. But what I do is I strained off the marinade, I pulled the venison out, and essentially what I have here is, you can see how I strained it off of here. I basically saved the herbs and the shallots. I'm going to use that as part of the sauce reinforcement into the pan after it's done roasting. And you can see that I also have the red wine still left in there. And I'm going to use that to kind of cook off, not only to concentrate and add a flavor base, but also to remove all the brown bits that you see in the bottom of the pan after roasting. So now, not over too high of a temperature, because you do have some of the wine marinade on there. So using an oil, this is a blend of olive oil and canola oil. I'm going to put just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. You see that first little wisp of smoke and a little ripple in the oil, so you know that you're in good shape there. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and put my venison in there and let it sear. If you go extremely too hot, nice sear in there. If you go too hot, what you'll find is that the wine in that marinade will cause it to actually get a little bit too dark. And you might get some bitter in there. So you don't need to feel like it needs to be a blazing hot pan or anything like that. You can be a little bit on the lower temperature. So salt, black pepper, wonderful marinade on there, some of the aromatics and the herbs in. And again, I saved all of the good garnish that was in there, soaking along with the venison, as well as that wine to utilize. So that gives you more of your own wine in the bottle to keep drinking along the way. And you can use a wine that was open maybe a couple days old. You know, you're using it for the marinade and for cooking in the sauce, and save your second or third bottle of Saint Supéry wine that you open up for enjoying. Notice how I'm just letting it sit there. It was patted dry, so there's less chance of it steaming or sticking, and it's going to encourage the browning process in there. Now, depending on the size of the roast that you have here, you may need to put this into the oven to finish. In this case, I'm going to do that with mine, based on the diameter of this and how long it might take to cook. And so I have it on about 375 degrees, and I'm going to finish it in the oven, although I am going to roast it in the pan. So instead of taking it out and putting it in a roasting pan like a big turkey or a prime rib, something large like that, it's small enough that I can leave it in the pan so I can take advantage of all the beautiful pan drippings in there. So now as we see this, let's take a little look and see. Nice color on there. You can see that browning. So now I'm going to go ahead and flip it over the other direction. And really not too much darker than that. It doesn't need to be too aggressively dark. You know that if it does get a little too dark, it'll start to develop some bitterness, and then that will carry over into the sauce. So you want to be careful on that. Now, if you did get a larger piece of maybe a larger roast or a shoulder, you might want to brown it off in a bigger pan and then transfer it into a roasting rack and into a dish, a roasting pan, and then go into your oven and roast it from there. If you have this size or maybe even smaller, like a tenderloin or a nice steak, you can just do it all on the stovetop, and you don't have to worry about going into the oven at all. The one thing about this type of meat, the venison, is that it heats much better. It's much more tender if you can make sure that you cook it to a nice medium rare temperature. Right? So it's, a lot of chefs will prepare this rare to medium rare. It's fine to eat that way. You won't get sick or anything like that. It's the same as a nicely raised piece of beef. So you can cook it to rare to medium rare. Now, as I flip it over to the other side, I'm going to get a little searing and browning on that side as well. So I'm trying to hit all the exterior sides there. You'll also notice that I took some of our butcher twine and I kind of tied it up a little bit there. And so what that does is ensure a nice size eye or dimension there on that loin. It's going to hold it all into shape. So if you do have some butcher twine, you cut your individual little strings, go ahead and tie it up after you've taken it out, patted it dry, and you're in good shape there. It just keeps it in more uniform shape, so it looks nicer if you're going to do a nice holiday carved kind of a roast onto your platter.
Todd, what would our temperature be at rare to medium rare for venison?
So that's the next conversation to have is if you are going to cook it to a rare to medium rare, you're going to need to know the internal degree of doneness on there. I'm going to go ahead and shut this off and let this get ready to go in the oven. And of course, one of my favorite tools to use, I know this is one of Emma's as well, is to utilize our digital probe thermometer. I know that I can put this into about the midway section in the thickest part of this, and I can preset my temperature here to about 118, 19 to 120 degrees. And that way, when I pull it out, it still has time for it to continue to carry over cook to the point where it's about 120 to 140, 124 degrees, 125. And that should be a nice medium rare to medium rare on this. That's an important part there. You want to make sure that you don't overcook it. They are fairly lean as far as the fat content in there. There's not a lot of marbling in there. It's pretty tender. So you want to make sure that you don't overcook it from there. So by using the probe thermometer, I set it to my degrees of temperature that I want it to go at. I insert this into the thickest section there, and then it's ready to go into the oven to finish off from there. So let me just show you what I'm going to do here at this point. You can see some of the nice browning bits that are on there. This end is a little bit thicker, so I'm going to go into just about that center part right there, where right now it's probably pretty cold, but I'm going to leave that in there since it's oven safe, oven proof, and I can go right into the oven. Mine actually says it's about 66 degrees inside, nice and cold there. So it's going to go into that hot oven for maybe, I don't know how long it will actually take because I don't need to worry about it because this is going to remind me when I hit my key temperature right there. And after that, I'm going to let it rest. Into my preheated oven.
I love that preheated oven because sometimes it just zooms.
Sometimes it zooms. Yes, it does. So now that is going to let me know when it's time to take that out of the oven. It'll hit that internal temperature. I have time to allow that to sit off and rest. At that point, I'm going to have a pan that has the drippings and the juice in there, maybe a little bit of some of the fat from the cooking process. So what I want to show you is what my Zoom oven came up with a little bit earlier. Of course, I do have a smaller version of that roast itself, but it's the same kind of idea here. You can see how it's nicely browned on the sides there. And you can also see that there's a lot of brown pan drippings in there. This has been resting nicely here. I removed the thermometer out of it earlier. And so all you need to do is snip off. Go ahead and snip off and cut and remove your thread. But again, you are going to use this pan to build your sauce. So I'll show you some of the steps just to get that going. Here's your beautiful loin of venison. This is a small half version, the other half in the oven there. And so now into this pan, all those goodies, right? We hate to see that go away and get lost or wasted. You know, chefs are always looking for this as a key to flavor anytime we see that kind of color. I'll go ahead and turn the heat back on here. So this is fast forward to the pan that's in the oven for you. And I'm going to go ahead and add in the herbs and the shallots in here and just get a little bit of softening on there. So as they cook, they will start to kind of soften their flavor instead of being raw and strong. So just warm them up gently in there. And then at that point, I'm going to go ahead and, without getting any extreme color on here, but there's a lot of flavor in that marinade as well. And then so also I'm going to add the wine and that's going to reduce down. So the process, and depending on how big of a batch you have going on here, how big your pan is, you may want to transfer this over after you've got it deglazed. You can put it into a smaller sauce pot. It's a little easier to handle, a little easier to control. So just a little bit of a warming here. Cook it for a minute or so. Kind of lose some of that rawness from the shallots that are in there. Warm up those herbs that are in there as well as toast the spices. There's the juniper berry and the black pepper, clove in there as well. You can really smell the aromatics, especially with the wine marinade on there as it's warming up and kind of toasting. That's great foundational flavor that you're looking for there. All right. So next up, after maybe another 30 seconds to a minute, you're going to go ahead and add your wine in there. So you'll notice that it immediately bubbles up. That's going to reduce down, cook down, evaporate the liquid, and concentrate the red wine. So that flavor is going to be acid, color, depth of flavor. It's also releasing all the flavor of the venison brown bits on the bottom of the pan. One of the best parts about pan searing, pan roasting is all the drippings in the bottom of the pan. Almost like having a nice beef with jus, prime rib with the jus, or turkey with the gravy. Same kind of idea. So same concept of building flavor here. Now, as this reduces down, I can continue and cook this down maybe to about half the way. As soon as it's about halfway, that's when I'm going to go ahead and add in my beef broth. So after I add my beef broth in there, I may transfer it maybe into a larger pot you'll see that I have a sauce pot here that is maybe a little bit better for cooking and simmering for a longer period of time. I probably want to cook this down and simmer it on top of this wine reduction until it's about halfway. That will add a little bit more body and viscosity to it. All right. So after that's cooked through, I can strain out all the ingredients. So you've got my little strainer here. I can pour all that with my reduced sauce down in there. At that point, you can adjust. Go ahead and taste it. Does it need a little more salt? Does it need a little more black pepper to it? Go ahead and do that. And then you've got your finished sauce here all ready to go. At that point, what you can do is put your cherries into the sauce. And of course, I already have one that is already finished. So I can show you what it looks like when it's done. So in this one.
Wow. Quite a beautiful color there.
Yeah, so fantastic color coming from the wine. Also, you have the cranberries, not cherries, but the dried cranberries steeped in there. And so you can see how it cooks down, right? You've got all the flavor built up into it. So it's really beautiful the way that it kind of pours nicely like that. It's not excessively thick. You can just do a last little warm up. And again, your cherries from dry go in here. So they impart and infuse their flavor into it. Brooke was mentioning that sometimes she smells cranberry in the wine itself. So that's kind of a natural tie-in right there. Now that you have that kind of warming up, all you need to do is slice and present. So all depending on if you're going to present a larger platter, you could do maybe a nice plate. That nice piece that I have there might be enough for about 2 people. If you wanted to put the sauce on the side, you can slice and go right onto the platter. If you wanted to do an individual one, you could also do that as well. So I know that this is good. And so if you're thinking along the lines of a holiday type of a roast, we could do a roast and carve it and slice it. I went ahead and, of course, put together a few extra garnishes. While it's roasting in the oven, you might have your potatoes, maybe your mashed potatoes, your wild rice or something like that going, your pasta, your side dishes of your vegetables, anything that you want to have all done up ahead of time, you can do that while it's kind of roasting in the oven. And then to slice this, I just like to slice kind of simple, straight across. And it doesn't need to be too thin. You can have some nice kind of medallion-like pieces here.
Todd, Ryan and I are both wondering why there's no butter so far.
Oh, no butter yet.
What a shock.
How about that? Just lay that out, let that kind of shingle down like so.
Beautiful.
And there we go. There's my venison that's ready to come out already. And so that was pretty quick. You could see on this one with my timer here at 120 degrees internal. So I know that I'm in good shape there.
That was
So there's the reminder, just as if you were at home trying to do the same thing. This might be a savior for you by having that remind you if you're busy with other things. It's going to remind you what's going on there. So a little bit of maybe your cranberry sauce to go. You can either put it directly off to the side. You can also serve some off to the side in a little dish or ramekin with it. And if you wanted to garnish with any of your sides, you could do that as well.
super pretty.
You want this to be cooked a little further and you would rather prefer it to be further than a rare to medium rare, you can go to medium. Any further than that, it may take a little hit as far as being a little bit on the dry side. And from there, just go ahead and do your great garnishes here. Maybe a few potatoes. And then your nice mushroom caps. These happen to be some king oyster mushrooms that I have around, but any of your favorite vegetables. There's some roasted shallots. There are shallots in the sauce and the marinade. So why not put some savory roasted shallots in there as well? So as you have these, I hope you can give these a try. Some fun, wonderful garnishes to go with it as well. So here are some rosemary blossoms, since I have rosemary in the dish in the marinade. Little eye-popping color.
Joanna's going to be proud of you with the floral display.
Well, I hope that works for you. This would be fantastic with the Merlot. I'm sure that it will stand up with it since it is such a crowd pleaser and very versatile. If you happen to have our Malbec, the jamminess and that fruit that's in there really would go really well with the cranberries as well. So hopefully you give it a try and enjoy. Cheers.
Well, Todd, exceptional. Thank you so much for another version. Jim says that's certainly not his mother's venison. And I can tell you, Jim, it's not mine either. It would not have been pink in the middle. It looks really fantastic, Todd.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And next week, what do you have for us next week?
Next week, as we get even closer to the holidays and roasting, I'm going to do a little variation on ham. So if you are planning on doing ham, to really kind of go well with our Moscato, I thought I would do an interesting kind of a base or a brush on the outside of that. So if you want to take a look at that recipe, maybe look at the shopping list if you want to give it a try. I'm gonna have fun doing a different kind of a glazed ham there for you.
Oh, well, I'm excited to see that. Maybe we'll get to use some of our citrus, maybe not, maybe a little display on the side. I'll have to check out the recipe. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to our heroes for all they do for our community, to all of you for sharing and caring and joining us today. We hope you have an opportunity to come and see the exhibit at the gallery at the winery. It'll be up for a while to meet our heroes, or check it out online. Also, Keith Blodgett's fantastic Sonoma Coast pictures, sightings from the edge, all proceeds from those go to Every Mother Counts. And Napa Wildlife, John Kaminsky's award-winning wildlife photographer and Napa Wildlife president's beautiful, breathtaking photographs of our wildlife here in Napa. Do come and check it out. We hope to see you soon. And if you're still searching for that perfect holiday gift, make a donation to one of our philanthropic entrepreneurs with the note St. Supéry of $500 or more, and you can join us at one of the lunches to celebrate our charities next year. Check that out online, St. Supéry/Giving Tuesdays, or in the catalog. You can join us for one of Chef Todd's fantastic luncheons outside and celebrating a great cause. That's the easiest gift to give. It keeps on giving. So thank you all so much. And we look forward to seeing you next week. We appreciate you joining us, and happy cooking. Be well, be kind. Cheers. See y'all soon.
Thank you.